Hello and welcome to From Impossible to Inevitable. I am your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you for joining me today on this episode. Today is a super exciting episode. I have Dr. Scott Asay here with me today. He is a chiropractor in Idaho and he does my energy work. So if you've ever heard me talk about my energy guy, this is the guy I'm talking
I'm the
about.
guy.
Yep. Dr. Asay is the guy. So he does chiropractic work and energy work. Could you tell us a bit more about what energy work is?
Yeah, energy work is everything we do, we experience an emotion with. So everything we look at, everything we see, everything we think, there's an emotion attached to that. There's energy attached to that. And all of our experiences have emotions tied to them. Sometimes those emotions are good. Sometimes those emotions are bad. And in a perfect world, we feel an emotion. Let's say we're driving down the road and someone stops in front of us and we have to slam on our brakes. We might feel an emotion of panic and fear and stress. And in a perfect world, what happens is those emotions process through. A couple minutes later, we're calmed down, they're out of the way. But sometimes those emotions will get trapped. And I'll give you a couple of examples of that.
Please do.
Early on in my career, I was seeing somebody and she was just not getting better. I was seeing her for chiropractic care. She had symptoms. We were doing everything right. We were tying her symptoms into her nervous system, adjusting what we were supposed to, stretching. We were doing everything perfect, but she was not getting better. And I sat her down and I said, I don't know what's going on. We're not improving. Your situation is not any better. And she looked down and I could tell there was some shame and some embarrassment going on. She looked down and said, I know what it is. I said, what is it? She says, you look like my ex-husband. I cannot look at you and talk with you and be with you. It's just not working. So I referred her to a friend of mine in town, just down the street, another chiropractor. She got better right away. That emotion and that trauma, whatever it was, trauma, whatever it was affecting her ability to heal. Another example is, let's say you have a teacher in second grade and you do a picture and she corrects it in a way that made you kind of sad. Normally, you that sadness would fade, it'd go away. But let's say that gets trapped maybe in your heart. It can get trapped anywhere. Let's say that sadness gets trapped in your heart. What can happen is that can sit there and fester, and it can start building a heart wall. It can start building a situation where you're not letting love in or out of your heart. And that can affect how you see and feel and do things the rest of your life until that trapped emotion is released. So that's energy work in a nutshell is we look for and release trapped emotions. We renew healthy energy so that you can be physically, emotionally, and mentally and spiritually better.
Yes, that very well said. Thank you. And this stuff is incredible. I remember my shoulder hurt forever. And even though we work over the phone, like we were able to figure out what that problem was. And my shoulder doesn't hurt. It hasn't hurt since. I mean, it took several weeks and several sessions, but that was just incredible to me that we were able to even solve that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
And I have examples like that all the time. It's great. I love it. It's
that's
exciting.
cool. Okay, thank you for that explanation on what energy work is. Now, are there any things that we can do on our own to help improve our energy, or do we need somebody to facilitate this for us?
One of the things I always try and teach people I work with is how to recognize and release their own energies and emotions. And one of the best ways to do it is there's a process of the first thing you do is recognize your emotion. Okay. Am I feeling anger? Am I feeling sadness? Am I feeling joy? Am I feeling frustrated? And then what you can do is ask yourself, is this emotion serving me? Okay. So let's say right now I'm sad. Um, I can recognize that and say, okay, this emotion I'm feeling, this kind of got me in a funk, is sadness. Is it serving me well? yes, I don't want to get rid of it right now. I just had something traumatic happen and I want to grieve about that for a little bit. Okay, so it's serving you well. And you can leave that. But if that goes on for too long and all of a sudden it's affecting your life, then you can go back in and say, okay, this emotion I'm feeling is sadness. Do I want to keep this emotion? No, I've already grieved. I feel like I've done what I need to with it. It's not serving me anymore. So I'm going to get rid of that. And there's a couple things you can do. One, you can scroll 3 times just over the top of your head, releasing that emotion, or you can just tell your subconscious, tell the universe, I want this emotion gone. I'm releasing it from myself. And then that emotion's gone. And the other thing you want to ask yourself is, am I valid in feeling this emotion? Okay. And I'll give you an example of that. Let's say you're at work and a coworker does something that causes you to feel angry. So you run through the process. What's this emotion that I'm feeling? What's this energy? Okay. It's anger. Am I valid in feeling this? Yes, I am valid in feeling this anger. Um, Something happened that is causing me to feel this, and I'm okay to feel that. Then you can say, is it serving me? No, it's not serving me. It's making me become short with others, and it's affecting my daily work. And then you can say, okay, since I feel valid, I feel validated for it. It's not serving me, so I'm going to release it. So then you can release that from yourself. But if you do those things, the hardest part is recognizing the emotion and taking the time to say, what is this I'm feeling? Why am I feeling it? Is it valid? Is it serving me? And then you get rid of it if it's not, or you keep it if you want to keep it. And there's some emotions that I'm like, I just want to be mad for a few minutes and I'll keep them. So that's how you can release them yourself. Now I'll tell you something that happened. I don't know if Megan will want me to share this, but
I
just a
have
few minutes ago,
taken notes.
we had to redo this section because I was sitting on one side of the room and I switched to the other side of the room because there was a window behind me. When I moved my computer, my laptop, it unplugged and I didn't realize it. That shut off halfway through this section and I felt immediate panic. And I had to run through that same thing. I had to say, okay, I'm panicked. Do I need to be panicked? No. Is it serving me? No. I just need to calm down, get things plugged back in, reconnect, and now I'm fine. But that emotion could just as easily have become trapped somewhere in my body. And then I start seeing other things through that emotion of panic or embarrassment or whatever that emotion was. So that's kind of a real life situation that just happened.
I love that. And I love what you're saying about taking the time to pause and really assess what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and how you want to proceed going forward. I have said this on the podcast many times about like just taking the time to pause. Okay, what am I feeling? How do I want to interpret this? Because everything starts out neutral and it's how we interpret it, whether we put it in the good bucket or the bad bucket. And how do I want to feel about it? I love the realism of, yes, I want to be mad for a little bit. Just let me be mad and then let it go. And there's a lot of power in realizing that we have the ability to just release things. We don't have to hold on to them. We don't have to be in an endless mental loop on whatever just happened. We don't have to make it mean anything about us or our lives or our future. We can make those choices. That's so powerful.
And that's the big thing is it empowers us to control our own lives, our own destiny, and not just be passively walking through life being affected by everything that hits us, all the emotions, all the energy, everything that comes at us, just absorbing that and having to react to it.
Yeah, the action instead of reaction. I love that. So your line of work is pretty amorphous. You know, it's hard to for some people to grasp or even probably some people to believe in. Um, so did you deal with imposter syndrome when you started in on this line of work?
Yes. And I have I dealt with imposter syndrome, not realizing it for years. Okay. And I'll tell you how that happened.
Yes, tell us about it.
So I was a young chiropractor. I graduated. I had a small practice in a small town in Colorado. little town of a few people. There were 9 of us, and I came in as number 9. And I'm like, this is where I feel like I need to be. But everyone that was, you know, counseling me about where to go said, no, you can't do it. You can't do it. But I thought, I'm going to do it. So here I am in a small town, a young chiropractor. And we would go to these continuing education seminars. My practice was pretty much structurally based. And what I mean by that is my philosophy as a chiropractor is I want to work on the structure. I want to work on the nervous system through the bones of the spine. I want to work on the muscular system through the bones of the skeletal system. I want to adjust the bones to affect the overall health of the nervous system through the functioning of and transfer of nerve energy. So that's always been my philosophy. I've never been big into gadgets and things like that. So here I am, a young chiropractor. I go to my continuing education classes, travel to Florida or California or somewhere, and I'm in this room with all these chiropractors. And I'll be honest with you, chiropractors are notorious for kind of fudging up a little bit on what their practice actually is. They want to impress their colleagues. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening, and, it's natural to ask people, where do you practice? What your practice is like? So people would ask me, and then they'd go into how they were doing this and they were doing this and they were doing all these things, and they can't use that note-taking system because it's not big enough for them. They could never include everything that they do in their practice in that small, limited note-taking system and that computer program. So I walk out of there thinking, I'm not doing enough. I don't know enough. All I'm doing is adjusting. Meanwhile, I'm doing fine. I've got a patient base. I'm happy with what I'm doing, but then I start to doubt. I start to have all these questions like, do I need to do that? Do I need to do this? And I felt very inadequate being in that room, almost guilty about being there as this little chiropractor in this little town, just adjusting the spine and getting people better and having good results. I thought, I'm not doing enough. So that continued on and everything. And I just felt like I needed to learn more and do more. Meanwhile, fast forward several years, I had this huge practice in the East Valley of Phoenix, probably the biggest practice in the East Valley of the Phoenix area. We had a big staff. Everything was going well. I go to a seminar, same thing. I'm like, okay, am I doing something wrong? I'm still structural based. I'm still, adjusting the spine to improve. I've added physical therapy. I've added pain management, but I'm still not really into the gadgets. I'm like, do I need to get more electronic stuff to do? And I come home and I'm like, why do I feel like this? I'm successful. I enjoy what I do. I love what I'm doing. I'm helping people. I'm serving people. Why do I feel like I'm not doing enough? And I started thinking about it, and I realized I can be happy with where I'm at. I don't have to do what others are doing. So it wasn't based on my success. It was based on me comparing myself to others. So when I realized I'm me, I'm doing what I do, they're doing what they do. So when I realized that, I started recognizing the fear. Okay. This anxiety, this fear. If my colleagues know me, they won't love me. If they know what I do, they won't respect me as a provider. If my patients know other people are doing things different than I am, they won't accept me as a provider. So there's this fear. If they blank, then they won't blank. And there's this guilt. It's like, am I giving my patients everything they need? So I've got fear and guilt, and then shame of I should be doing more. Why am I lazy? Am I complacent? All these things. So when I got past that, then all of a sudden I'm like, I don't need to even listen to these guys compare. I don't need to be involved with that. I am so happy where I am. So fast forward again, I retired several years ago from that practice in Phoenix. I didn't work for several years, and then I missed what I did. So I went back to it. I work out of a small living room about 20 by 20 in my home, and I have a home office. I filled a niche that I saw needed to be filled. I see a handful of patients every day, 15 to 20, and I just do what I do. I'm not fancy. I'm a straight shooter. I don't have the big fancy practice anymore, and I'm happier than I've ever been. I go to a seminar and they're like, "What's your practice like?" I say, "I work in my living room and I love it." You got a dog barking in the background. You got kids coming and going through the front door, bikes on the front porch, and it's perfect. And I had to get past that. That whole comparing myself or feeling like I was an imposter in the room. And so that's how I overcame it. I just had to recognize that there were these other things in the room. There were these other things that I was feeling guilty about, and I had to basically check my emotions and make sure that I was doing what I was comfortable with and what I love doing. And if it's serving and helping others, it's the right thing to do.
I love that. So essentially, what I heard you say that the pathway to overcoming imposter syndrome is by being true to who you are, what you do, what you love, knowing that you're providing value in your own way, and just kind of knowing that everything else is just noise.
Yeah. Basically, own what you do and don't leave the room. Be there, be present. An example of not leaving your room is, let's say you're a first year freshman in college engineering student, and you end up in a room, a study group with a bunch of engineering students that are seniors, about ready to graduate, have been to their internship. They're on a whole different level than you. You feel very uncomfortable. The first thing you want to do is get out of that situation as fast as you can. Own who you are. Say, you know what? You guys are awesome. I am a freshman. I'm just starting this journey. What can you teach me? What can I learn from you about how to succeed and how to be better? Rather than leave the room, own it, stay in the room, embrace what you've got available to you.
I love that. I love that. Stay in the room.
Should make that a shirt.
I should.
Stay in the room.
Stay in the room. That's great. Embrace who you are and where you're at. And I would probably add not over identifying where you're at either. It's just
Yeah, keep it
where
simple.
you are. It's
Yeah.
not who you are. It's just where you are.
Mm-hmm.
I love
Where
that.
you are does not dictate who you are.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times we marry those two very closely.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
I mean, we see it all the time. We see people driving fancier cars than they can afford, living in bigger homes than they can afford, wearing clothes they don't really like because they want to impress others. That's all imposter syndrome, and that's all not embracing who you are. Okay, I see people all day long in my living room wearing jeans, Vans, and an untucked shirt. That's who I am. They like it or they don't. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to you because that's not what it's about. It's about the
Yeah.
work. I love that. Thank you, Dr. AC. All right, last question. I love hearing people's personal philosophies on if people would just do this or live this way or whatever, they would have an incredibly better life or career or relationships or whatever it is. What is that to you?
To me, okay, I wrote this down because she did ask me earlier. And I had to really think about it. I had my ideas, but I needed to figure out how to formulate them. So the first one is love. Okay. And I'll qualify that a little bit. If you can learn to give and receive love unconditionally, you will be happier. That doesn't mean you have to love everybody and love what they do and love your circumstances. But if you can learn to love, to give love and receive love unconditionally, and I'll be honest with you, it's harder to receive love unconditionally than to give love unconditionally.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the way I came up with this is if you read and listen to near-death experiences, people that have passed away and come back, there's a lot of different ideas about what actually happens. Some people think it it all happens, all that information, all those experiences are in the brain. Some people feel like your spirit, your subconscious, your energy actually goes somewhere and comes back. Doesn't really matter what happens or what individual beliefs are. The consistency and the common thing that people say when they come back, wake up, is this world, this earth, our experience here is about love. The energy, the emotions, what drives this earth and our experiences here is love. And that's what a major part of society is missing. It's not things, it's love. So I would say the first thing is learn to give and receive unconditional love. The second one is whatever you do, do it well. Okay. Whether you're the person that picks up my trash and drives past in the truck and clamps onto the big garbage can and dumps it in and sets it on the street, or you're a heart surgeon that is saving my life, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing, do it well. Um, we're not identified. We're not, what we do does not make us who we are. It's how we do it. And as long as we're doing what we do to the best of our ability, that's all that's expected of us. We
I
don't
love
have to
that.
be better than anybody else. We don't have to be worse than anybody else. We just have to be the best we can be. And if you'll do that, it will make you happier. The other thing, and this is the big thing, this is a more physical thing, declutter. Everything we own, everything we look at elicits a response, an emotional response, an energetic response, a physical response. And I'll give you an example of that. The back half of my house is pretty much all glass and it overlooks a valley. And those windows get filthy. They're high up. I don't really wash them that much. And the sad thing is I used to own a window cleaning company, but I've probably got the dirtiest windows in town sometimes. But every time I walk past and look at those windows, I get a response. And usually it's, oh, those windows are filthy. Oh, the kids are coming for Christmas. I need to make sure those windows are clean before that. My wife would be so much happier if I cleaned those windows. I've never had windows this dirty. My in-laws are coming. I need to make sure that those windows look better by then. So that's those responses I get. And clutter and things elicit responses too. Everything we have, everything we look at draws energy from us. And I found through my work that when we live in a messy, cluttered environment, it decreases our energy. It brings in a low vibration, low energy into our environment. And the more we can declutter and simplify, the higher our energy will be, the more we'll be able to function on a higher level in that space. Now, that being said, there are some people who their style is a lot of things, a lot of clutter. So I would say to that, just make sure it's as organized as it can be and it's clean. Some people like things very simple. Some people like things more cluttered and busy. And it doesn't matter as long as it makes you happy and it's decluttered to your comfort level and things are clean. So the three things that I think can give you a happier life is love, doing things well, and decluttering and keeping a clean, simple space.
I love that. Thank you so much, Dr. AC, for coming on the podcast today and for all the good work that you do in the world.
You're
Uh,
welcome. I've enjoyed being here.
I hope that my listeners have gleaned some of these really great nuggets of wisdom and are inspired and encouraged to go out and have a better life and focus more on what you can do to improve your energy, to improve your environment, and to love more unconditionally, both give and receive. Thank you again for listening in. I wish you all the best. Until next time, bye for now.
Bye bye.